In case you just joined us, this is News Check, and we are looking at the COVID-19 vaccine, trying to demystify some of the issues that have come up when the COVID-19 vaccine has been mentioned, and bearing in mind that it is arriving in the country tonight. We need to address these issues, and I have been honored to be with Dr.Liz Gitau since minutes past 10, and we are trying to do exactly that, and that is exactly what we are going to do. She is the Kenya Medical Association Chief Executive Officer. And perhaps to go back to what we have been discussing, can one get a jab if he or she experiences allergic reaction, like the ones talking about eating eggs and scratching yourself, or it doesn't matter?
So if you have any allergies to any of the substances that is used to actually keep the vaccine stable, and for some of, especially for the AstraZeneca vaccine, has been shown that certain egg proteins are used to actually keep the vaccine stable. So if you have any severe egg allergies, this vaccine possibly might not be one you would want to get a jab. So for anyone with any allergies, before getting the vaccine, it will be wise to contact your physician.
And still on conditions, what are the safety concerns for people with underlying conditions?
So no major concerns. Pretty much the only people you'd be concerned about is for those with actually immunodeficiencies or any autoimmune disorders or undergoing chemotherapy. And these are the ones we're saying first be assessed by your doctors to check your eligibility for the vaccine prior to getting the vaccine.
Yeah, and we've heard that people over 65 years are among the people who are most affected by the coronavirus, and some of the people who are going to benefit from the COVID-19 vaccine as soon as it arrives in the country. Do we have a problem with age when it comes to underage children, for example, 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 5 years? Do we have an age limit when it comes to children?
So pretty much the current studies that we had, there have been no studies done on children. And as such, the vaccine is actually being given to adults for now, as it is. And also looking at the risk stratification is that we haven't had a lot of severe illnesses with the children. So pretty much in terms of the older population where they've gotten severe disease, those are the ones we want to give the vaccine to first, because the essence of having the COVID-19 vaccine is not per se to prevent you from getting COVID, but to prevent severity of the disease and symptomatic illness.
Of course, a lot of vaccines that are currently in the market or in Kenya have been there for a while. This is a new vaccine. What are some of the challenges that we expect in terms of distribution and also taking the jab itself?
So one, in terms of infrastructure, being a country where we're facing shortages in infrastructure of various levels. So getting the cold chain in order, this is one challenge that the government needs to deal with. In terms of health workers training and in terms of sensitizing health workers to avoid vaccine hesitancy. So I think in terms of vaccine hesitancy, that's the biggest risk. And that is why we keep calling on the government that continue training health workers, continue giving this information to the public, because this is the biggest risk. Should we have Kenyans refusing to take the vaccine, it would be a huge, huge risk.
170 vaccines are currently under trials. Kenya, of course, has worked, as you have rightly put it, is that it has worked hand in hand with Oxford to develop a vaccine. 170 is quite a huge number. Why aren't they using perhaps the same technology that these other companies are using, so that we may have some common uniformity? So
pretty much one is that COVID-19 is a very new vaccine, is a very new illness. So everybody is pretty much trying what would be have the highest efficacy, and number two, what would be safe. And different companies during the period of research and development would actually try different ways based on their expertise and also based on the technology available to them. So this is expected that you'll have various companies trying different things to be able to deal with the same. Similar way, you'll have various various medicines for the same disease, including HIV. We've had various drugs towards HIV, and that's why you even have currently a combination therapy. So it is a good thing that there's so much focus within the global fraternity in terms of developing the vaccine. The only thing we are calling for is for vaccine equity, to ensure that even the poorer countries are able to get the vaccine, and the rich countries don't get to hold the vaccine and drive the prices up.
And something that you've talked about, the HIV, and somebody raised the same issue, talking about we've been having HIV for the last, what, 40 years, since 81, and we have never had a vaccine or even medicine. We only have the ARVs to suppress.
Yeah, so pretty much goes to speak in terms of the access to health services and access to healthcare, and in terms of the politics that go within vaccine production and even the pharmaceutical supplies production. So pretty much for most of the medications are actually available mostly to the West before they actually get to us. Some of the diseases, the neglected tropical diseases that we have actually gone without medication for long because pretty much like nobody is interested.
Vaccines like malaria.
Yeah. So pretty much right now is when we're starting to see a bit of interest on the malaria, and it's because of the advocacy towards equity in terms of development of various vaccines.
And looking at AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Moderna, they all, as you say, they are all using different technologies. We've had some are not suitable, and especially for African countries, because they need a lot of refrigeration and specialized storage.
Yes.
Kindly touch on that.
So pretty much for the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine is what needs to be stored -70 degrees centigrade. And pretty much it's because of the technology that they're using, the protein that they're using the RNA of the COVID virus to be able to develop the vaccine, which is actually quite unstable in heat. So that is what, depending on the protein that has been used in development of the vaccine, would actually inform the temperatures within which the manufacturer gives advice that we keep the vaccine, such that if you remove it from that temperature range you've been given, it means that the vaccine actually is destroyed and might not be effective.
And perhaps partnering or even exploring other vaccines. Do you think it can really help the country, just in case we have a variety of variants that like the ones we've reported in South Africa?
Definitely, it is important to be prepared. Being an evolving disease, being an evolving science, it is imperative that the government should be prepared, that similar to what South Africa did, that should this not work for us, we might be able to move into the next and the next and the next until we actually are able to combat the pandemic. And
the most developed countries, unfortunately, the worst hit. And when it comes to vaccine, there were concerns that they might try to be buying all the vaccines in the market, and Africa will be left holding the short end of the stick. How can perhaps Africa improve on perhaps research like we are doing at KEMRI to perhaps help out when it comes to medical emergencies like the coronavirus?
So definitely this is a challenge to the African countries to start growing the level of expertise, and also to start growing the level of infrastructure that we have, because in terms of building research capacity, it doesn't happen in a day. Research capacity needs to be grown over a period of time. So this is a challenge for Kenya in terms of growing the research capacity. Should we have other pandemics, or in cases of certain diseases that we actually face currently in the country, we're actually able to develop vaccines or drugs for the same. In terms of why Africa has actually gotten the vaccine possibly this early, is because there's been a lot of advocacy in the global spectrum in terms of even the African Union going in and saying we must maintain equity, we must be fair as we distribute the vaccines.
And we hope they're going to play fair. Confidence, we've had a lot of Kenyans are expressing reservations when it comes to the COVID-19 vaccine, talking about the KEMSA. It might not be your everyday cup of tea, but you're also a Kenyan, and you're also working in the medical fraternity. How can we bolster confidence that this vaccine is efficient, it will help Kenyans, and there will be transparency in the distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine?
So from a health workers perspective and scientifically speaking, based on the research that is out there, is that the vaccines that are currently in distribution is that they are safe and they actually have good efficacy against the COVID-19 virus. So that said, in terms of building confidence, you know, you can speak science, but also in terms of building confidence takes a lot of advocacy, and also from the government also showing Kenyans the plans that they have, and ensuring throughout this program that we are maintaining transparency, and for the civil society and also the professional association is to continue to keep the government accountable, to continue asking the questions on behalf of Kenyans, and even for the media to continue asking the questions on behalf of Kenyans.
Now, looking at a country like India, it has a very, very robust medical tourism. They have some of the best hospitals we have around, but they haven't really led the line when it comes to finding a COVID. They only done a lot of partnerships. We're expecting to hear, we've had the Russians have their own, the Americans, the Britons. We haven't had a single one from India, which is known as one of the countries that has one of the best healthcare systems.
So in terms of the number of vaccines that are out there in various levels of production and in various levels of trials, so of course there are certain Indian companies which actually are actually going through the trial period, but pretty much none of them have gotten to the phase 3 that we are currently. And we actually hope, based on the population there, that they're actually able to develop a vaccine, because they have a huge population, and based on the amount of pharmaceutical that actually comes from India, that we are actually hopeful that with collaborations between the Kenyan and the Indian government, we're able to develop something.
We've seen that we can comfortably say that at least Oxford AstraZeneca, Kenya has, even if it's 1% input in that vaccine, we can brag about that. But looking at research in Africa, most of the countries are always looking at the West or the East when it comes to matters research and matters COVID-19 vaccine or other vaccines. Why is it? What has really led to African being always behind when it comes to research and when it comes to medicines? And they are the worst hit. We are the worst hit when it comes to malaria, other ailments like even HIV, which have been forgotten because of the COVID-19.
Yeah, so the pharma industry is a huge industry, billions of dollars. So in terms of developing research, you have to put your money where your mouth is. So the government must invest in research for you to be able to actually get out certain pharmaceuticals, for you to be able to get out vaccines. So should we have more investment in infrastructure, more investment in capacity building, that is the day we shall be able to actually see vaccines being developed in Africa or drugs being developed in Africa at a larger scale than we are right now.
And Kenya, of course, has participated in the Oxford AstraZeneca. What comes of the patenting of the drug itself? Do Kenya get something like we had
Not
with
really.
Kikoi, remember, a couple of years ago?
Not really, because when you look at the vaccine development, most of it has been done by private pharmaceutical companies. So in terms of patenting, you expect that the various pharmaceutical companies have patented this, but in terms of the advocacy that is ongoing is in terms of allowing this technology to be used by various other people, even as you get to the licensing level, so that they're able to give this technology to other people to increase access to the vaccine.
And are there laws that govern the administration of vaccines? Because when you heard about Africa raising queries on whether we are going to be getting the vaccine, and some countries being mentioned as some of the countries that may hold the vaccine so that Africa may get something, are there laws governing?
Not necessarily. Looking at this, that these are private pharmaceutical companies. You cannot mandate them to sell vaccines where per se they don't want. What is continuous is various agreements with the various governments and various pharmaceutical companies to actually avail the vaccines to all markets. So it's an ongoing lobbying, even through the World Health Organization and other bodies, including the AU, to ensure that everyone is actually able to get the vaccine.
The Kenya National Union of Nurses Secretary General Seth Panyako did raise some concerns. Of course, when he raises concerns, other nurses may follow suit and also raise the same concerns, and that could be could be watering down the vaccinations that are supposed to be beginning anytime this week. And yes, remember, the healthcare workers are the first one to receive that.
Yeah. So definitely in terms of Ministry of Health identifying the stakeholders and communicating with the stakeholders, including the unions, the professional association, it is very key because they are opinion shapers within the various associations, within the various healthcare industry. And if healthcare workers do not take the vaccine, it means even the public might not have the confidence to take it. So in terms of reaching out, the Ministry of Health should continuously reach out. The same way we have reached out to, as Kenya Medical Association, we've continuously reached out to the Ministry of Health to continue reaching out to all healthcare workers to allay anxiety and boost confidence.
Yes. Talking of confidence, how can we boost the confidence so that Kenyans may actually partake in of this jab? Because we've heard and we've seen in the social media that a lot of people have reservations when it comes to such kind of vaccine.
So pretty much is to roll out the communication strategy in terms of ensuring that you're giving clear, concise information. It is regular. You're actually utilizing stakeholders. You're using religious leaders. You're actually going to the community leaders and pretty much taking this information further. So continuous, concise, and precise information, which is given at a regular basis, should be there. Should be something the Ministry of Health should be doing.
And still on the same, there was a national task force on COVID-19 vaccine distribution that was formed sometimes last year. And looking at what Kenyans are talking about even in social media now, is that it's like the task force never completed its work because a lot of Kenyans are so green about the vaccine, and it's supposed to be administered this week.
Yeah, so I think this is a huge challenge. One to the Cabinet Secretary of Ministry of Health, because pretty much he actually heads the task force. And also other members of his ministry who actually had other technical working groups, and also in terms of the deployment task force. So for sure, there's a lot of communications they need to do in terms of ensuring they're giving us the plans. At least we're able to see the deployment plans booklet that has been shared to healthcare workers, and we're hoping the same shall be put in simple language that the public is able to understand why to get the vaccine, where to get the vaccine, how to get the vaccine, where are you being injected, and those, and pretty much when do I get the vaccine, if I'm a member of public, at what level of the pandemic will I be able to access the vaccine.
Yeah, a lot of people think that this is quite a solution for COVID-19. Of course, when you get a vaccine, you're protected against the disease, right? So
as we said, for the COVID-19 vaccine, the efficacy is towards preventing symptomatic and severity of illness. Oh, okay. So when you get the COVID-19 vaccine, kindly continue ensuring that you're adhering to the COVID-19 measures, wash your hands, wear your mask, maintain social distance.
Indeed, and we expect that Kenya Medical Association, of course, will also be part of the distribution process that will be rolled out in the country. Perhaps it's a question that I should have started with. Are you ready to take the jab? Okay.
Myself, I am ready to actually take the jab. I am willing to be among the first healthcare workers to take the jab, to provide one leadership, and this is based on the scientific evidence that is there on the efficacy of the vaccine.
Yeah, you are a medical practitioner. Yes. Have you seen or have you heard the same concerns being raised by people in the same sector, just like Seth Panyako did today?
Definitely there's a bit of anxiety among healthcare workers regarding the information that is out there. Most of the counties, because currently health is devolved, most of the counties pretty much haven't been prepared to actually train the healthcare workers. Currently there are actual trainings ongoing for the various counties' healthcare leaders to actually cascade the training down to the counties. So this needs to be fast-tracked so that counties are ready, because that is where the real healthcare delivery happens. So for sure, healthcare workers, some of the healthcare workers are not well informed, and we need to fast-track the information to the health workers.
Indeed. Well, that has been our guest today, but actually I want to check out some of the comments or some of the suggestions that some people have raised in relations to what is happening, what is supposed to happen today, where we are supposed to be getting our first batch of the COVID-19 vaccine, which is the Oxford AstraZeneca, which was approved for use on 30th December with the first vaccination administered in January the 4th. Of course, there are other Pfizer, we also have Moderna, we also have the Sputnik, which some countries are warming up to, but Kenya's having actually participated in trials with the Oxford University. That is why we are using the AstraZeneca. And of course, the way you've talked about, there's something that we haven't touched on as before we take a short break, the storage of these vaccines. And yes, you know very well in Africa we have an issue when it comes to cold storage, when it comes to warehouses that can house such kind of vaccines. What should we know about the storage of the vaccines? As it is, what the government has put in place is that we have a central store, which is in Kitengela, and we'll be having various regional stores across the country to be able to store the vaccine. And there are certain funds which have been allocated to actually procure more more cold chain infrastructure, and utilizing also the available capacity within the expanded program initiative of the government, which usually mostly do for children immunization. We're actually able to meet the storage requirements. Indeed. And looking at some of the comments that have been raised by you, the viewer, of course, Chisang David, thank you so much. You're watching from Ravine. Maina watching from Nyeri. Maina Wanyeri tuned in. And I do remember there was a question that regarding, but we answered it, regarding the efficacy and why is it that Africans are being, the vaccine is coming at this moment, and who are the first person. Of course, we know the health, but the leaders should actually show the light. Of course, we will be coming back. We'll be sampling some of your comments. Remember, we're also live on YouTube, on Twitter, and also on Facebook.